Hi, this is Carrie Ann. I am the host of The Wounded Healer with Carrie Ann, and I'm coming to you live today. On our last episode, I spoke with Lynn Polizzi, licensed clinical social worker, about her practice and how she brings in holistic healing into her practice. And so today I was so enamored and interested in the interview that we had. I wanted to learn more about hypnotism in particular, and holistic supplements. And so Lynn has a wealth of knowledge, because she brings both of those modalities into her practice. So we're having her on again today to speak specifically about how she brings those into her practice and the benefits for clients in her mental health practice. So give me just 1 second to bring her in from the green room and we will take it from there. Hey, Lynn. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Carrie. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so grateful to be back with you. I'm honored to be back again.
So happy to have you. Our last discussion really was so interesting that I just felt like we really needed to continue and dive a little deeper into more specifics, about some of the modalities that you bring into your practice. How's the weather down there? We've been having, it's sunny, it's raining, but the sun's out, a little windy, but sunny. How about you guys in Virginia?
I think it's pretty much the same. I mean, yesterday was like, I honestly thought we were watching a movie, my husband and I, about tornadoes. And I look out and I see a green sky and I'm like, that is a tornado sky. My husband's like, yeah, whatever. And then, of course,
Wow.
the news flashes up and we see that, yes, indeed, we had to be careful because there were some areas that looked like they were going to form tornadoes. So it's always fun down here in Virginia with the weather. But today, magnificent, bright, and
Wow.
sunny. Got to go for a hike and feeling energized.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. And with tornado season upon us, I'm glad that you guys are safe and well down there. And so what about Easter? Are you ready for Easter? I'm still kind of scrambling a little bit.
Well, as I talked to you about the last time, then I'm Italian, so Easter is equivalent to Christmas. So
Yes.
it's like thank God I don't live by family where I have to buy as much, but now I have to send everything. So it's like putting together all the Easter gifts, and the giant. My kids are 19 and 21, and I still give them Easter baskets. So it's a big deal here in the Polizzi household. So no,
Same
I'm not
here.
ready.
Same here with my daughter away at school and getting the package out. And, yeah, I pierced the peeps by accident while I was cutting an apple. So now I have to go out and get new ones because they're not going to be fresh. The peeps are great when they're fresh, but leave them for a day and it just doesn't work out. So I'll be out actually after this podcast gathering the rest of her care package. All right. So, I mean, basically, like I said in our opening, I wanted to get a little more involved in talking about hypnotism, which is just fascinating to me on a personal level. So, tell us a little bit more about hypnotism, how that works, and what goes on in your practice, how you bring that to your clients.
Okay, I definitely will. And I would also just quickly like to say I brain farted in the last one. It's so funny. I don't know if any of you are experiencing this, but my brain with COVID has still not come back 100%. So I find like I want to say something and it comes out completely different. So there's a couple of things I want you to know with SSRIs. They're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That one I've always had dyslexia with, and I've always say serotonin selective. So just don't beat me up too hard over that one. It is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and I apologize about that. Also, when we were talking about hypnosis, I want to make a distinction, and I'll talk about it, but I said the word induction twice when it's supposed to be induction, then suggestion. So if you saw the first one, sorry for the confusion, but I'm going to elaborate more about what that means today. So be gentle with me, people. My brain is still not 100% from
I
COVID.
think, you know what, honestly, I mean, we all make mistakes. And I think you, you couldn't have made it on a better podcast, because I feel like my viewers are so gracious. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, I don't think that that we would have any problems there. I mean, it was a slip of the tongue, and it's nothing. It's all good. You just corrected it, and we'll take it from there. I mean, with hypnotism, yeah, tell us. I want to know everything.
All right. So with let's start with the type of therapists that do this. You can either have a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist. So a hypnotist is someone who is generally certified through a governing body like National Guild of Hypnotherapists or Hypnotists, and NGH. They're the training body that I was also trained by. When you're a hypnotist, you don't have to have a mental health background. Doesn't matter what your background is. You can get a certification in hypnotherapy. Well, I should say hypnotizing. But then if you're a therapist like myself or a psychologist or someone with a mental health background, you can become a hypnotherapist. Same training, but your qualifications are a little different, and it allows you to bill insurance companies. It also allows you to go into the mental health aspects of the hypnotherapy realm, meaning that you can treat someone with anxiety and depression specifically, whereas a hypnotist cannot. You can go to a hypnotist to become more relaxed, but they cannot treat you for a mental health disorder. So there's a clear distinction. Not saying one is better than the other. It's
Right.
really personal, because I know some amazing hypnotists too, like Kelly Talixon. But I think that if you're looking to get reimbursed, or if you're looking to go into specific mental health issues, then I would look up a hypnotherapist.
And so that was my next question. I mean, is hypnotism with a hypnotherapist covered by insurance sometimes?
You really need to call your insurance company. Typically 50 to 80% of it is covered, but it depends on the insurance company.
Okay.
A lot of them do. A lot of them now cover the integrated health arts like acupuncture and other things like that. So you really need to just call and ask. The beauty of it is, though, if you go to someone like myself, it's a therapy session. So if they're providing therapy, then that's part of the therapeutic toolbox that they have. So then you would be covered if you went to a social worker, and that was just part of the work that we were doing together.
I think a great benefit that that could be covered. So that's wonderful, and it gives a lot more people access.
A ton more access. I don't think people realize that this is, and I don't think people realize that it's a big part of therapists' toolboxes too. More and more therapists are becoming certified in hypnotherapy because they do see the real intrinsic value of it and how quickly it heals. Whereas you have a typical talk therapy client can come to you for years trying to resolve, some subconscious stuff or, deep trauma. And with hypnotherapy, oftentimes you can get to the heart of matter much quicker, and you can resolve issues in sometimes even one session. So it's pretty profound. It really is. And that's the part I love about it the most is how quick it is. I'm solution focused anyway. So that means that I really like to carve out goals, and I like to have actionable steps. And I don't not that I don't but I prefer not seeing someone for years and years and years. I'd rather have solution-based therapy where you're really focusing on the heart of the matter. It's not like psychoanalysis where you're coming in and it's very free-flowing. You're doing most of the talking. That's not and that's saying one is better than the other two. They're very just different. So for me, hypnotherapy works very well with who I am as a practitioner because of the speed and because of the efficacy and because of getting to the heart of the matter. And you can focus on a particular goal in the hypnotherapy session. I love it. I think it's transformative for a lot of people.
So is it safe to say that in your experience, you do see progress more quickly when you perform hypnotherapy?
I really do. I mean, with the clients that I'm using with, I do see tremendous progress. The ones that I don't see as much progress with are the ones that they're not, I mean, they're hypnotizable, but they question it a lot. So if you really don't believe it's going to work, or if you have a lot of second thoughts about it, I recommend that you really keep researching it until you feel comfortable and you believe that it actually can help you. I think the more you are inclined to believe it's going to work, the more it's going to work.
Okay. Is that, and that's because it's the power of suggestion?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how open are you to suggestion? Like, you really need to figure that out with your clients. Are they open to suggestions? Some people aren't. So you really have to do different things with them to see if they're open for suggestion. Like when I'm hypnotizing someone, I will notice in the beginning, in the induction phase, and we'll talk about the different phases, but I'll say something like lift your arm, or I'll say your jaw now becomes slack and your mouth opens, and I'll watch for that. If that doesn't happen, then I know I need to take them in even deeper. And then if they don't do it at all, then we stop. But I've never had that happen. I've been very lucky with respect to people who are hypnotizable. And I'll be honest with you, most people love it just because it's so relaxing that I haven't seen anyone who hasn't gone in a deeply relaxed state ever.
And so typically, how long is a hypnotherapy session?
It really depends on what type of hypnotherapy the therapist is doing. For me personally, what I like to do is the first session is an hour and a half. And depending on what the presenting problem is, if it's, let's say, a phobia, like arachnophobia, right? Being afraid of spiders, I'll meet with the person for an hour and a half, really kind of to drill down on their mental health history. Really important, right? Can't do hypnotherapy on someone who has a history of psychosis or a severe active addiction. You don't want to do hypnotherapy on someone who's really struggling, let's say, with drug addiction. The big one, though, is you don't want to do hypnotherapy on someone who has had a history of psychosis. That's a big no-no. So you want to clear all that out, see where they're at, where their mental health history is at. Also, if it's let's say it's the arachnophobia, right? You want to look back at their childhood. When did this occur? Were there other co-occurring events happening around this time? Was there a death in the family? Was a parent ill? Was there anything? Were they traumatized in any way? Because oftentimes those type of events can create the vulnerability to creating a phobia. So you want to address that as well, because you can add that information in on the suggestions piece of hypnotherapy. So I'm trying to think what else would be important with that. Yeah, I mean, that for me personally, I see most people are hypnotizable, and I see a lot of efficacy in my practice with clients.
And so how long after a session would you say people tend to see progress, and what kind of progress? Like, give me an example of something that you would treat with hypnotism, and what would represent progress for that client.
Okay. Let's say it's an issue with self-esteem. So we would talk about like their history, what was really creating the issues with their self-esteem, look at their childhood, look at their past, make some connections, and then really kind of distill it down. So bring them into the initial phase, which is the induction phase, right? And the induction just means we're inducing them into a very relaxed state. So that would be through like something called progressive relaxation, where they would focus on their tensing their muscles up and then releasing them. That's an induction. Or we could just bring them to a beach and use guided imagery and then kind of test them, see if they're in a deep, deep state. Sometimes people need what's called a deepener. So we would bring them into a deeper state, even going even deeper. It's the same as an induction. You're just going deeper with the relaxation. And then the suggestion piece is where that's the most important piece, right? That's if you're working with someone, let's say, like I said before, with low self-esteem, this is where you are now, the person is deeply, deeply relaxed. Now you've bypassed the beta state of brain activity, right? There's all different brain waves. It's the beta state, the alpha state, the theta state, and the delta state, right? So the beta and the alpha state. The beta state is our conscious awareness. So you want to get them to an alpha state, or even on the cusp of a theta state, which means deep relaxation, where the subconscious now, you can tap into the subconscious, right? When you're in a beta awakened state, that's the state of anxiety. That's the state of depression. That's that chaotic mind, that daily brain waves that we experience in our conscious daily activities. But when you relax them and you bring them down and you talk them down into this alpha state, into this theta state, these are the areas of the mind now that you can tap into, the subconscious mind, which is the sponge for all of those past experiences, right? Think about a past experience that was traumatic for you. I'm sure something comes right up in your head, Carrie, right? When I say that.
Sure.
So think about that, right? But you have to retrieve that. But the experience itself goes into your subconscious mind, and then a lot of behavior, unfortunately, can occur because of these subconscious images, these subconscious experiences, anything that we've experienced in the past that we're not lucidly cognizant about. It goes into your subconscious mind. So that's really it's the place in your brain where you can make the most impact, right? And it's also the space in our brains, unfortunately, that can cause the most negative behavior. So just a really quick, can you see this?
Yes.
So
Yep.
this is our conscious mind, right?
Okay.
5% of our brain at most is consciously aware. The rest is subconscious activity.
Wow.
You know, which is profound if you think about that, right?
Yeah.
Everything we do is 95% of what we do is motivated by the subconscious mind. So to really break it down, think about when you learn to drive, right? You learn how to drive, it's all conscious.
Yes.
Step on the gas, step on the brake, do all those things. That's a conscious act to learn, right? But then 5 years later, you get in your car, are you going over all of those tasks?
Absolutely not.
You're
Right.
subconsciously doing those. So that's where we want to get into the subconscious area when we go from the inductions to the deepeners. Then we go to the suggestion piece. So we have to make sure that the patient, the client, is in an alpha theta relaxed state, and we'll check in with them to see where they're at. We'll ask them to do different things, and if they comply with that, then we know they're ready. So the suggestions, let's say it's for anxiety, you would say things like, you are calm, you are grounded in the moment. Every day you wake up feeling really engaged and really relaxed about the day. You stay in the present moment. Your life is driven by joy. Anything that is going to make them go through the day and feel calmer and more mindful and more grounded. And then you can even add in suggestions. Let's say that the self-esteem issues are from a parent. I've done this where I've had clients talk to their parents in the alpha, theta, deeply relaxed state. And in their mind, I'll have them have a conversation with their parent about why they have so little self-esteem and what they need from them. And in the hypnosis, they'll ask them for what they need. And sometimes the parent is gone. So it's really great to be able to have that experience, to be able to do that. It's very much like Gestalt therapy. It's chair therapy, where I do this with clients too, where you have a picture of your parent in the other chair, and you literally have conversations with that parent, even though they're not present. They could be deceased, or you could be, not in a relationship with them anymore, estranged from them, but you're still able to process and you're still able to really connect emotionally with the experience. So it's really, really profound. So we really put in a lot of different suggestions. You feel pride when you look in the mirror, you feel strong. When you now go to work every day, you feel a feeling of strength, and you feel able to take on tasks easily, and you feel so confident around your coworkers, whatever the theme is. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, but it really depends on the person. And that's why I spent an hour and a half really drilling down and trying to get this information from them, how to make it the most personalized to them and their experiences. Whatever it is they want to change, how do we make it the most personalized for them?
So the intake session then is equally as important when you're asking these questions and going through their childhood experiences and exactly what it is that they want to resolve. It helps you to prepare for when they come in, it sounds like.
That's right. That's right. And oftentimes, they come in for one thing and then you realize that they may need something else.
Oh.
They may come in to quit smoking, but that you realize their addiction is actually shame-based, that they're not allowed to talk about any of their feelings. And it's causing them a lot of grief in their lives. And instead of just focusing on that, first you do the shame-based work, giving them a voice, giving them the opportunity to finally stand up to people who have pushed them down all of their lives, whether it be internally during the hypnosis session or after the hypnosis session, giving them the strength, right, to stand up.
I would imagine that is the benefit of seeing a hypnotherapist as opposed to someone maybe who is who's versed in hypnosis but not necessarily a therapist. I mean, is that a fair assumption for me to make, that you're going to assess a client differently and
100%.
deal with root causes as opposed to just the smoking or just the eating or whatever the issue that's presenting?
100%. I mean, you have to be really careful. I mean, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma that people have experienced. And if you're not a licensed mental health practitioner, you could be opening up a Pandora's box and cause someone to go into psychosis. So you have to be extremely careful. Not only with that, you have to be careful. There's this whole, now it seems to have calmed down a little bit, but there was a time in the 80s and the 90s where everybody was talking about repressed memories, and they were going to hypnotists to get, to get in touch with these repressed memories. But unfortunately, a lot of these people were not skilled enough to manage that. And a lot of times they were even imposing memories that were not there and causing a lot of damage. I'm the type of person, and people don't have to agree with me on this one. Everybody practices differently. But if the memory is not present, why? And people often walk around thinking, oh, I must have a repressed memory because I don't remember a lot of my childhood. Don't search for something that's not there.
Right.
Seriously, that
when your mind is ready for it, it will present itself.
It will present, and it may not even be there. That's the thing, right? You're looking for something that may not even be there. It could just be a compilation of many things that happened in your childhood, or it could be one thing that we want to tie so much to trauma and make it into something that may not even exist. Like, you didn't necessarily have to be sexually abused by someone and you're repressing that to have mental health issues. So you got to be very careful. And if you're going to go to someone for repressed memories, make sure it's a mental health person. That I'm very strict about that one. And don't look for something, like I said, that may not be there. Really, really.
I can see. I can see, yeah, I can see why. And in our last visit together, I did not mention it was on the banner going underneath our broadcast, but I didn't mention where people can find you. So it's www.hypnoblисstherapy.com. That's how you can contact Lynn, and she's duly licensed in New York and Virginia.
Mhm.
So if you live in either of those two states, she can treat you. She does also do, Zoom sessions and
Yeah,
telehealth type of work. So she can work remotely with you in certain areas if you are from New York or Virginia. I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's important for people to know where they can get the help.
absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And so as far as I know we wanted to go into also some holistic supplements. You're
Yes.
very knowledgeable in this area, so
Yeah,
tell
I
us.
have I have another certification in they've changed the name twice, but it's basically certified in mental health and integrated mental health care or integrated medicine for mental health. And basically it is, part of that is looking at the whole person, right? We were talking about this last time, and it's so important that people understand that there is a new frontier here with mental health. And I think the drug companies aren't going to like this, but they're starting to see that mental health issues are caused by inflammation.
Mm,
Big, big, big. There's a study that I just printed off. Um, it's way above my pay grade, the study, but I was reading it, and they're finding that a lot of people with mental health issues have these inflammatory markers in their bloodstream, and what is causing the inflammation. And sometimes when you get to the root cause of the inflammation, your mental health problems can dissipate,
wow.
lessen, or go away completely. So really important for people to understand before we even talk about this at a deeper level. If you're going to come off your medication, do not do that based on what we're talking about today. You
Right.
have to do that with your mental health care provider, and it has to be done methodically, and you have to be titrated down, and you have to come off in a very, very, very slow way, be titrated off your medication. Never, ever come off mental health medication abruptly, ever. Find yourself a holistic provider that can work with your practitioner, and they can come up with a plan, a titration plan to titrate you off while adding supplementation in at the same time.
I agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of the team approach to any kind of healthcare crisis, but particularly mental health, which is why I'm doing this podcast. I feel like that, this is a global problem that, for many years people wouldn't even speak about it, let alone, have a team working for them,
Yeah.
but with the healthcare that's provided today, there are, really quality practitioners in both the medical and holistic communities that can work together to determine, what's going to work best in your situation. And I think, as always, I'm probably always going to mention this. 988 is the number that you can call for suicide
That's right.
helpline in America. If you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or someone else and you need to speak to someone, you just dial that number. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can speak with someone about your situation, and they'll just listen and help you out. It's a great resource and literally a lifesaver.
It is a
So,
lifesaver. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And it's so
yeah.
important. And you know what else is really important to mention before we get into the supplements? And I swear to you, this is the key. I'm even taking my glasses off for this one. With mental health issues, right? And with anxiety and depression and just mental health issues in general, we constantly look outside of ourselves for answers, right? We
Mm,
externalize everything. We look for partners to fill all those holes in us. We
yeah.
look to jobs to fill the holes. We look to the BMW to fill the holes. We look to all the external stuff to fill those holes that are inside of us. And none of that, it'll all work temporarily, especially
Yeah.
relationships. The first 2 years of a relationship are pretty much, we're clinically insane. We're like manic from the
Uh, I
relationship.
mean, everyone's on their best behavior.
On their
Let's
best
face it.
behavior and all of that oxytocin, all that stuff that's flowing, the
Sure.
dopamine, everything. Woo, we are considered clinically insane when we're first in love. You really are. It's a great feeling. There's nothing like it, but you
Sure.
can't maintain that, right? So if you're constantly looking, first off, it's not fair to put that on somebody else, right? To
Right.
fill all those spaces
Right.
in you. And a lot of times we'll go from relationship to relationship, or from job to job, or from medication to medication, or from whatever it is, from yoga to skydiving, whatever it is, we're looking outside of ourselves. But I
Right.
really believe that read the book of joy. It's so simple, right? It's you have to do the work. You have to look inside. You have to take full responsibility, right? And ownership. You have to sit with the anxiety and the depression,
Yes.
almost like a monk would, kind of sit into it and,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
feel it. And I mean, especially with the anxiety, people are like, how do I avoid anxiety? I'm like, you sit with it.
Right. You acknowledge that it's there to begin with.
Exactly.
And maybe it's there to show you something. I mean, I used to suffer with debilitating anxiety,
Me
and
too.
there were times where I would say, God, if you don't have anxiety, maybe you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, anxiety sometimes is pointing you towards something that you need to acknowledge, but oftentimes, it gets kicked up to a level that is, can become debilitating, and that's no good. But its initial purpose is really for you to look inside about what about this,
Right?
right? It's a little siren saying, look inside. What about this is making you uncomfortable?
That's right.
Um,
That's
and
right.
once we're willing to sit with that without the food, the drug, the alcohol, the cigarettes,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
every vice that you could imaginable. If we're able to, put that to the side a little bit and acknowledge it for ourselves, we make a little more progress. But listen, that's much easier said than done. I mean, if it was so easy, we'd all be doing it, right?
Much
So,
easier said than done, and very scary. And definitely do that with a qualified therapist too. But that's where you're going to find your peace and joy, right? We talked about the
agreed.
happiness conundrum the last time, but joy is a state of being. And
Yeah,
you can have all those other experiences and all those emotions, but if you really want to heal, you've got to look inwards, because it is all within you. It really is.
yes,
Very, very
agreed.
important. And then one of the most curative things, I think, is compassion for others and looking outside of yourself, helping others. I don't think there's anything more rewarding or anything better, I think, for our mental health than doing for others. And
Agreed. I agree wholeheartedly that if you can focus on somebody else's pain, it gives you, there's a level of gratitude that you're even able to help, right? Someone else,
that's right.
that you might possibly even be in that position. And so I think that's vitally important for people to come outside of themselves. It does bring you to a different level.
The Book of Joy, it's all about that. And it's a very simple book, but it's a long book. It's about Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama and their beautiful
Ah,
friendship. I love the book. I love the book. And it was part of a book club that I'm in. And one of the participants, when she was her turn to talk about the book, she was like, this book it's ridiculously small-minded and simple, and it's just too simple. And she had a few other books that she had recommended that were more intellectual, right, and deeper.
oh,
She missed the whole point. It is that simple. I mean, I had
right.
to keep saying it over and over again,
And I
right?
feel like when you listen to these leaders, really the leaders of our time, Mother Teresa, Desmond Tutu,
Very simple,
yeah, the direction is often very simple, and you think, oh
right?
God, I didn't think of that. I've been overthinking this the whole time.
Overthinking it, we really overcomplicate things. We overcomplicate so much. It is really simple sometimes, and we're always looking for something outside of ourselves and something super
Mm,
intellectual. How could it be that simple? But it really is. So really take that information to heart and know, like, start there. That is like the key, I think, to feeling better. But there are organic things that can be going on. We all know that, right? You can have a shortage of serotonin. You may not have enough magnesium. You can be low on different things. So that's where the supplementation is really, really key. And I was telling you the last time, they found even gratitude can be as effective as the SSRIs and the antidepressants. So, also infusing your day and starting your day with gratitude. But if you want to start thinking about coming off a medication, or possibly you feel like you are struggling with depression, you want to try something more integrated, holistic, then there are things like, say it's anxiety, right? Magnesium is a great starting place for anxiety. And a lot of people are very low on magnesium. And it's simply a mineral to kind of help brain functioning. It just helps your brain function better. It makes the connections better. One that I really love that I recommend to my clients all the time is Calm. These Calm gummies are really good. And this one I actually take myself every day. It's magnesium L-threonate, and this one actually crosses the blood-brain barrier. If you can see this, and the company Symbiotica. I have no relations to these companies at all. So, but these are the two that I use and that my family use, and I love them. So yeah, for anxiety, I definitely recommend those. Also, vitamin B. People don't understand when you're low on B1 and B12, that can cause anxiety and depression, or both. So vitamin B12 is really, really critical. Just want to make sure I tell you them all, and I have them all on a sheet here.
And are the B vitamins, they affect the nervous system, is that correct?
They affect the nervous system, exactly. So the B vitamins, B1 helps you with mental health. It helps the body convert glucose into energy, and without it, the brain would not be able to function normally. So glucose, believe it or not, that's why some people can't do keto diets, because they don't have enough glucose, and then they feel like and their blood sugar is low. So add B1 to your diet. Make sure that you're adding B1. There's a plan that I've been on for weight loss and for optimal brain health. It's called, oh my God, I'm brain farting. I only said it 1 million times. Oh my God. It'll come to me. I promise you.
I believe you. I believe you.
This is it. This is COVID. It's like I've
no pressure.
Man, 1 million times. Anyway, it'll come to me. But I like this plan because it's very well-rounded. It is strict. But you are allowed to have a grain a day in the morning, and you need that. I really feel like your brain needs that grain, that bit of glucose from the carbohydrate to get your brain going. It's super, super important. So B1 helps with that. B12 also super important. That actually helps with the production of serotonin and dopamine. So it enhances the production of it. So B12, really, really important, especially if you're like in the drinking ages, right? The 20s and the 30s where you're out drinking a lot, that depletes B12. People who drink a lot have very low B12. So you want to make sure that you're taking that every day. Super important. Vitamin C, people don't realize that actually vitamin C, there's a strong link between that and mood. A lot of people don't even think about taking vitamin C for mood, but there is studies that support that. Vitamin D, right? What happens during winter? Seasonal affective, right? Depression disorder. So a lot of people, when they're not outside, they're not getting enough sun, they're not getting enough vitamin D. And, is this seasonal affective from the lack of sunlight? Mood-wise, like you're feeling sad because it's dark, or is it just because you're just not getting enough sunlight and you're not getting enough vitamin D from the sun? So really important. And I'm telling you, everybody I talk to when they get their blood tests, they always say, I'm low on D. Most of us are. We are an indoor society now, especially after COVID. People's vitamin D plummeted. Depression, anxiety went through the roof, right? We weren't going out. We were stuck in screens all day. I'm sure, right? Did you feel that way just from being in from COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I tend, believe it or not, I have this podcast, but I tend to be a little bit more of an introvert. But yes, then at some point, in the beginning, it was, I kind of settled in more easily than an extrovert would,
Yes,
for
yes, us
sure.
hermits do that.
But
I
but
totally
then
get that.
after a while, I went a little stir crazy, and I tend to be a little low on D myself. My
Mm,
doctor checks it pretty regularly, and I noticed that when I take the D supplement, I'll get a spurt of energy. Like the
yeah.
next few days after I take my, because I take a slow release, so it releases throughout the week, and
Mm.
yeah, and I noticed the difference in my energy levels almost immediately, like the next day.
Isn't that, yeah, me too. It was like, I always know when I start feeling sluggish. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
I haven't been really taking my vitamins. And it's sure enough, I'll start taking them. Like Mary Ruth, I love her liquid supplements. They're so
Mm,
good. They're so good, high quality. Um, love, love, love them. I hate to say this,
okay.
Amazon, don't get mad at me, but buy your vitamins directly from the distributors because there's so many knockoff vitamins today, sadly, on
Uh,
Amazon, that they're just replicating the labels, they're making them in China, and there's a lot of copycats and phonies. So please, if you're going to buy any supplementation, make sure that you buy it directly from the manufacturer. Really,
it
really,
is, that is, the sourcing is really important, and
oh
it
my God,
really,
it's
it
important.
doesn't pay, the technology too. What's the absorption like? Because you pay money to take something, but if your body's not absorbing it because it
That's right.
doesn't have other minerals involved, it's not going to facilitate the chemical reaction that you need in order to for your body to absorb it. So it's super important to do research when you're going to be purchasing these supplements. I love it that you have some good suggestions for our audience, and I would say Melaleuca too. Believe it or not, Melaleuca is
Yes, Melaleuca, yes,
yes, a high
yes.
quality, and I I can get you in touch with somebody at Melaleuca that can help
That would be
you
great.
with you or any clients, any of our viewers. But they have some pretty high quality, low toxicity, vitamins, soaps, just everything.
Love that.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
please. I would love that if you get me in touch with them.
sure.
Yeah, sourcing is really critical and key. Vitamin D is also helps with depression, believe it or not. And we talked about vitamin D. I apologize. I just want to make sure I covered the big ones. Vitamin D, zinc. Zinc is a big
Uh,
one. People think zinc is just for helping your immune system, but zinc is also
mm.
really great for anxiety as well. Um,
Oh, I didn't know that actually. Zinc wasn't even on my radar until, when the teacher invented like airborne or the
yes,
vitamin
yeah,
C. Okay, so then zinc got on, was on my radar then for what you said, like for immunity. And then not again really until COVID. And they started to see a
yes.
relationship between, zinc and people helping people recover.
Higher
Um,
mortality, less lowering mortality, right? Another
yeah.
thing really strange about lowering mortality, which just blew my mind, melatonin. Melatonin is great for
Oh,
sleep, right? You don't
yes.
get enough sleep, you're going to be anxious and depressed if you're not sleeping enough. So melatonin
Yes.
is a great one, but melatonin also did something with free radicals. I don't remember, again, way above my pay grade, but
Yeah.
Japanese scientists found that if people took 10 milligrams a night, every night for at least 2 weeks, once they got COVID, the mortality rate dropped significantly, between 40 and 60% lower mortality rate.
Wow.
So take melatonin. If you get COVID, get 10 milligrams and take it every night. It's a very clean thing to take. It's not going to cause any issues.
Right.
Take melatonin. It can help you tremendously.
Yeah, I had no idea. But that, yeah, the zinc came on the radar then. Now, what exactly does zinc do for us that can help with our mental health?
It helps with brain functioning. So basically, I think just with connections and stuff, if you
I
don't
see.
have optimal connections, the the steam engine isn't working properly, right? The
Right.
cogs aren't spinning the way they should. You're going to have problems with serotonin and dopamine, and you're going to have problems just in general. So basically, it just says that it can result in reduced brain function and cause behavioral disruptions.
Wow.
And it says also chemicals, when your body lacks zinc, chemical messengers are not easily passed around your body. So that's important, right?
Well,
So
so that's the synapses, right? That's
exactly,
yeah, okay, I
exactly,
understand the connections in your brain from the different sides and yeah, all
exactly.
working together.
Yeah, because when you have with dopamine or serotonin, it's all about the connections, and the synapses are between the nerves, between the neurons, actually. That's how they all communicate with each other. So if those aren't working optimally, then you're going to have problems with serotonin and dopamine. And it's not really the production, it's just how you're utilizing those neurotransmitters. If
Right.
you're not connecting well, then you're not going to utilize those optimally. Magnesium, we talked about. Magnesium, really, really important. It not only helps with anxiety and depression, it also helps with muscle spasms. That's why I take it.
Yes.
Helps. So, and it helps with sleep too. I take it
Yes.
before I go to bed. So, and it's very calming. It's very soothing. The only thing you have to worry about with magnesium is it's the same thing they use. Magnesium citrate is what they give you to
Mm,
prep for colonoscopies. So the great thing about magnesium, though, is if
right.
you suffer from constipation,
Yes.
it helps tremendously.
Yes, it will help people in that
It,
area as well.
yes,
Yep.
but you may want to start slow. I mean, calm gummies, they say take 4. I would take 1 or 2, especially if you have IBS. You may even want to start with 1.
Right.
But they help quite a bit. Magnesium helps quite a bit, but start slow and then let your stomach kind of adjust and then work your way up. But it really helps with constipation too. It's really miraculous,
Wow.
honestly. Omega-3, right? That's just so, it, your brain needs fats to function. Back in the 80s, oh my God, we destroyed ourselves, man. In the 80s, we were told to eat fat-free diet. I ate
Yes.
everything fat-free. My cholesterol was actually so low that it was just as dangerous as having high cholesterol.
Right.
My doctor, my endocrinologist screamed at me, like, because it was so low, because you can do just as much damage to your
Yes.
brain with low cholesterol. And I believe that's part of the reasons why I have neurological problems today, is because my brain was deprived from fats for way too long. Our
Right.
brain needs fats in our diet to function. But sadly, in the 80s, we were told that everything should be fat free. So we were
Yes.
carb loading. I was eating bagels because, we thought bagels were the thing, because they didn't
Right.
have fat in them. I was eating a
Yes.
lot of pasta and stuff, and then cutting out like oil, cutting out butter, cutting out cheese, cutting out all the things that today now they realize in keto and a lot of these keto diets are actually, it's so much better, and especially better for your brain and your brain functioning. So omega-3 is they're from high fat fish, right?
Right.
And they nourish the brain and they promote optimal brain functioning. So omega-3 is super important. A lot of studies been done about omega-3s and improving mood. You can find omega-3 too in nuts and seeds,
Yes.
but
Avocados.
avocados, I just
Yes.
love
All the
avocados.
healthy fats. Yep. The
You
healthy
know,
fats.
it's so crazy. I remember back in the 80s when I used to
Yes.
walk, my ankles would literally click with every step, and my hair was so dry. And I'm like, what's wrong with my ankles? Every step I took here, click, 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 click. As
Wow.
soon as I put fat back in my diet,
Yeah.
that completely went away.
It helps lubricate your joints. I mean, there are definitely a lot of benefits, and there are hard healthy fats that,
Hard.
and we didn't know that back then. You're right. The big advertising, it was the fat-free craze.
It
Um,
was sad because I think it hurt us, a lot of us in many ways, with
yeah,
just not like supporting our brain health at all
right.
during that time.
We didn't know. We didn't know. And then, then eggs were not good for us, and now they're good for us.
Right? Eggs and fats and all the Mediterranean diet, awesome
Yes.
diet. right?
Yes, agreed.
So rich in all of these yummy things and
And
olive
balanced.
oil and balanced.
They're very balanced, so and fresh. I mean, they do like with your Whole 30, I imagine it's a lot of fresh foods, right?
Whole
Fresh
30 is
vegetables.
all fresh and
Yeah.
organic. And the program that I've been on, now I remember it, Bright Lining. See how it takes a while?
Yeah.
Bright Line 2 is like as organic as you can be, fresh as you can be, not a real sugar substitute diet. So you really just want to get sugar out completely and not really replace it with anything.
Right.
But you're allowed to have a grain a day, which I think is its saving grace. And that's why it's been so successful for me.
And
Because
I,
you,
I don't for our viewers though, like I don't want to dismiss the benefits of small changes too, though. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like
yes,
you don't
that's
have
such a
to
good
you
point.
don't have to clear out the cabinets necessarily and do Whole 30 tomorrow, right? You can work your way up to it and and maybe, get into if you can do it, I think it's great. But I think that if you're able to balance yourself and maybe get into better habits, you're going to benefit from it in the long run. Small
You
step.
hit on such an important topic and really key with all of this, really, right? Is that we are very black and white in our actions, right? We're
Yes.
either all in or
Yeah.
we're
Or
all out.
all out.
And,
Yes.
and, and you're so right. When it comes to dieting, even with the supplementations, if you could forget, if you take it every other day, if you don't take it, just because you missed a day doesn't mean you should stop taking it
It
at
all
all.
helps. If you eat a
Yeah.
devil dog, you're not done for.
Yes, exactly. Then we think,
You
oh, I
say,
might as well
okay,
just dig out the rest of the day,
right.
right?
Don't finish the box.
Exactly.
Call your husband
Exactly.
for help, maybe, and and get on with the day and get back on the horse like that. I'm starting to learn that balance myself because you're right. It's we're all in or we're all out instead of saying like, you know what, let me just embrace that I just did this for whatever reason and I'm not going to do it again, at least not today,
Yeah.
and keep going,
And
Yeah.
I think that's the key too to like keeping it off. Like for my husband and I, we've done this program for a year, but we've definitely taken vacations and ate what we
Sure.
wanted. One weekend out of the month we'll be like, yeah, it's the week we're all petered out. We're kind of like long in the tooth from not eating sugar, not so we'll have a bagel or we'll have pizza that weekend.
Right.
I think that's the key. And this is, I think, where people gain all the way back because they're like,
Yes.
oh, I'm not all in. So now I'm just going to eat whatever I want.
That's
And,
exactly what it is. And
and
they
then
go
you
off the,
spiral.
yes.
Exactly. And I think the key is to allow yourself. Now, having said that, the woman who created Brightline would be yelling at me right now. If she's ever going to see this, which she may not, probably won't, but she'd be like, no, no, no. She's very strict, especially for
Right.
people who are very high on the susceptibility scale, she calls it.
Sure.
I'm not. I can have a box of donuts in my house and not eat it, but that took
Oh,
decades to be able to do that. And I
yeah.
had to make friends with food to be able to do that. So for some people, there's a very hard line with that. But if you can have something in your house and not eat it, and you're like, your kids can come home with something and you're like, no, I'm good, then
Right.
you're pretty good. Or if you can have a handful, I can have a small bag of peanut M&Ms and be good with that.
Be done with it.
If
Right.
you can't, then you need to be more structured and strict because then you have disordered eating and you have to be very careful. Um,
Now, a question, back quickly to the hypnotherapy. I mean, do you help people with
yes.
eating disorders with the hypnotherapy? Because disordered eating, whether it's clinically disordered or not, you know what I mean, is such a common thing. I feel like a lot of people struggle with this.
It's funny that you brought that up because I've never done it specifically for people with a clinical eating disorder like bulimia or anorexia.
Right.
But I have done it with people for overeating. And I even listen to it myself. And I know when I don't listen to it for a while, I have one that I listen to at night before I go to bed. When I listen to that, I am really much more aware of how
Mm,
I'm eating. And I love it. So mildly disordered eating, yes. For people who want to lose weight, definitely. I have
sure.
not done it with anorexia or bulimia. I could certainly make up a script for it because of my clinical background. But I don't know the stats on that. I don't know how effective that is. I would imagine it's got to be helpful.
Right. It can't hurt you. It's not going to hurt anyone. So
Exactly. It's not going to hurt. And it just help people just, subconsciously get into their subconscious and figure out, whose voice is behind the eating disorder. I hate to say it, but a lot of times it's how we were raised, what we were
yes.
told. For me, food was love. Love was an express.
Yes. I think that's a New York Italian thing.
It's a New York Italian. And my friends who are Jewish. They're like, yeah, me too.
Yes. Food is love. If we don't like you, we're not breaking bread with you.
Exactly.
And if we love you, we will feed you until you roll out of there. I always just thought it was a New York Italian thing, but I think a lot of people, just equate that. I mean, the grandmother's making cookies and, even that sort of thing.
And for some people, that's the only way they ever knew how they were to receive love, right?
Right. It is a nurturing thing for somebody to cook for you and really serve you.
And then think about how powerful food becomes, right? And then think about us poor people who have these food problems. Then you think we have to control an addiction all day long. Cocaine. You don't need to eat cocaine 3 times a day.
That's right.
You don't need to drink
keep
alcohol.
Yourself out of, keep it. You can stay away from that crowd. You can stay out of a bar. Exactly. Don't go to the liquor store. There's some avoidance involved, at least in the very beginning. So sure, anything having to do with food is a bit more complicated, but it's good to know that, that people can get a little bit of help, with all these different types of addictions with the hypnotherapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just some of the last ones, we've gone over most of them. Multivitamins in general. Valerian root is a great one because it's the same derivative of Valium, right? So valerian root's very, very, very calming. Chamomile tea. Chamomile, super relaxing. It's a much more milder anti-anxiety, but it's definitely worthwhile.
And they have the valerian teas too. The valerian root tea,
phenomenal. Lavender, lemon balm, CBD is a huge one. CBD, they've done multiple studies on that, but please, with CBD, do not buy it in your gas station. I beg you.
High quality. You need you need to put high quality ingredients.
Charlotte's Web is the one that I recommend all my clients to. It's the one that I use. Just look up charlottesweb.com. Very, very high quality CBD. Buy it from them. Do not buy even the drugstore CBD. Not a fan.
And Charlotte's Web, is there like a number you can call if you want like a suggestion for dosage and that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can call them. Their customer service will that's such a great question because a lot of people don't know what to take, right?
Sure.
So I always say start low, whatever is the lowest they offer, or buy a higher potency, but take a much smaller amount. Really good. I'm glad you brought that up because there's a distinction between broad spectrum and full spectrum, right? Full spectrum, you have to be aware, has a little bit of THC in it. So you could come up positive toxicology if you're in a highly sensitive job.
Important to know. Sure.
So really important. So you don't want you want to take the broad spectrum CBD with no THC. Make sure it's not full spectrum. I personally like the full spectrum because I feel like the little bit of THC definitely has like anxiolytic properties to it, meaning like an anti-anxiety type of medication.
Right.
And it's great for depression. I feel like CBD is just like it's like a chill pill. It really is. When you take it, I've taken it, and you just feel calmer. And it's, we have this endocannabinoid system that is like throughout our whole body. And supposedly they've just recently discovered this. And that's why CBD is become such the rage, but it really is a system that exists just like our nervous system. So CBD is what it does is just calms that and balances that system out, just like your nervous system. But really, I love CBD, but again, it's the quality. I've taken low quality CBD and felt horrible from it. You know, just
Yes.
when I first started trying it, I didn't know.
Me, me
Right.
too. I would wake up with a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah. The low quality is just not helpful, and I'm saying that from experience. I mean, I try.
Yeah, me
These
too.
things that I take magnesium. I mean, these things that we're talking about, I try to implement into my life, and so that's why I have this podcast, and I want other people to know about it. I think it's so important that we could augment the therapies that we're getting. And as we have mentioned at other times in this broadcast, though, I mean, all of these suggestions, bring them to your medical doctor,
Yes,
bring them to your
please,
psychiatrist or
please.
psychologist, and have a real discussion about what you want to see happen and what you want to bring into your repertoire and into your daily life, and get their suggestions on the medications that you're currently on, and what you want to supplement with, so that we know that we're doing the safest thing for you. Okay?
So important. And just love yourselves, please.
Yes.
Love yourselves.
Whatever state you're in, I would say, yep. Learn to
Right?
like yourself and love yourself.
And shadow work. Do the shadow, right? What is the shadow work? It's basically just looking at the parts of ourselves that we disassociate from ourselves, that we
Right.
shame ourselves over, right?
Yeah.
Like I grew up really hard childhood, tough street kid, and part of me hated that part of myself that, like, if you
Mm.
mess with me, I'm going to be straight up with you. Like, you mess with my family, you're going to get the Brooklyn, like you've never seen the Brooklyn in your life. But that's the part that flashes up, right? That
Right.
rage, because I was so abused, right? So that part, I hated that part of myself. But then I'm like, no, when I did the shadow work, when we push these parts away, we break ourselves up and we feel so
Yes.
not like we feel so disoriented, and it's just shame. We just shame ourselves over these
Yes.
pieces of ourselves. So you embrace that. Now I embrace that part of me. I am a warrior woman. Okay.
Right.
That flash of anger saved me.
Right.
That was my saving grace. That gave me the
That's so
strength.
funny that you're saying this, because this is some of the work that I've been doing, and really, like, I tend to be my natural temperament is a little more mild mannered, but boy, do I have a wicked tongue when I've had enough,
Me too.
and and I was told to sing lullabies and hum, because
Mm,
I really needed to start working on my my approach when I'm feeling that fiery part of me. But it is very much a part of me, and at one point in my life it served me well. I needed it.
that's right. That's right.
And so just to accept that about yourself, if you're a little, hey, some people are very jealous or a little spiteful.
Yeah,
Know yourself and accept, I can be a little spiteful. I want to be better.
that's
You know
right.
what I mean? So, okay, I know it could be a little spiteful. It's hurtful. It's really not good for me either. Maybe I could work on this, and find ways of doing that. But I think you're right on when you say just love yourself the way you are right now, especially if you're a person who's trying to do better. You
That's right.
know?
And nobody, please trust me on this. We're Carrie and I are in spiritual communities, and you look at other people and you're like, why aren't I more like Zen and shamanic like them? Everybody has their moments. Nobody's a
Yes.
perfect spiritualist. Nobody's a perfect person. Nobody's a
No.
perfect anything. There's no
No.
such thing. We all have our shortcomings. And I would say shortcomings. We all have our human qualities, and
Yes.
nobody is perfect. And we all make mistakes. But just you learn from them and embrace all of these things about you, because they make you divinely and uniquely who you are. And there's nobody
Yep.
else out there like you.
And
And
when you
it's,
start to accept yourself and forgive
yes,
yourself for the way that you can, those parts of yourself, that your ways maybe that you're not, that are not, optimum maybe. When you start to forgive yourself, what you're going to find is you're a lot more forgiving of other people too.
oh my God, yes, absolutely. If you notice the things that irritate us the most, I always say this to myself. If I start getting really annoyed by someone or angry with someone,
Yeah.
I say to myself, what is this bringing it up in me? Why
Right.
is this triggering? And oftentimes it's something I need to work on. It has
Right.
nothing to do with them. It has to do with me and what I need to work on. So
Right.
own that. If someone really brings a lot of stuff and you ask ask yourself, like, what is this bringing up in me? Is this something I also need to look at? Something
Right.
I need to work on?
And it's really just about getting curious, it really just
Exactly.
becoming
Yes.
curious about yourself. Like, what the
Yes.
heck? Like, why am I reacting to this so strongly that I'm
Yes.
I'm a little over, when your friends or your family are looking at you and they're saying like, you're a little over the top right now, yeah, you maybe you have a little work to do and you have to say to yourself, oh, I'm a little over the top. What is this about for me? What is it about for me, not the other person? And and listen, I give kudos to anyone that's able to do that, because that's the tough stuff. That's the hard part of the journey.
Yes, it is. It is. But that is the most rewarding part of it, right? When you
For
figure all
sure.
that out and you
Yep.
embrace yourself for, the unique, beautiful person that you are, really.
Yeah. Listen, I'm always glad to have you, Lynn. I'm always glad to be able to touch base with you. Miss you so much.
I miss you
And
too,
to
honey.
our audience, hypnoblисstherapy.com. Contact Lynn for any of these needs, and she will point you in the right direction.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much for
Thank
tuning in.
you. Thank you so much,
Have a
Carrie.
great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye bye.